Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I'm Peter Gross, co-host of the original Wild Kingdom with Marlin, Perkins, and Jim Fowler. Throughout the years of filming Wild Kingdom, we were faced with the grim reality of extinction of some animal species. In the early 60s and 70s, animals were negatively impacted by the loss of habitat and the use of a chemical insecticide known as DDT. Today, DDT has been banned in the United States, and we've made great strides to preserve wide open spaces where animals can thrive. Wild Kingdom made a direct impact on modern captive breeding and release programs, and we're now seeing a positive comeback from many species. We must all do our part to continue this progress to protect all animals in the Wild Kingdom. So sit back and relax and enjoy Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is presented by Mutual of Omaha.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. One of the world's endangered animals is a large sea mammal Stan Brock and I hope to observe in the coastal waters of Florida, an animal which was responsible for the legend of the mermaid. The legend began when early sailors first sighted the manatee or sea cow in tropical seas. Only the imagination produced by a long sea voyage could transform this animal into a mermaid. Today, the sea cow is the subject of a conservation study being conducted by the Florida Department of Natural Resources. They invited Stan and me to take part in their project.
One of the objectives was to capture sea cows for close observation. Now, these animals often feed in quite shallow water, so this allowed us to use a very simple capture method. The idea was to circle a sea cow in a speeding boat, paying out a heavy net which would then surround the animal. The net was weighted at the bottom and had cork floats on top, and this formed an underwater pen in which we hoped to trap our sea cow. It seemed like a very good system, but it didn't work quite as we expected.
Our first job was to find a sea cow. The animals range over much of the coastline of Florida, but they are most accessible when they move into the shallows and freshwater streams. Our search began here in the Gulf waters off Florida's southern coast.
From the air, we'll survey an area where thousands of islands stud the coastal shallows. This murky water makes it difficult to spot sea cows because you can't see below the surface. Tom Kime will follow the open channels when our search begins. But now our course leads across a large island to a rendezvous point with the boats that will take part in our capture attempt today. A combined air and sea operation. We're right on time. The boats are just arriving.
The plan is to locate a sea cow, net it, and haul it ashore where the Marine Patrol team from the Florida Department of Natural Resources can study it. Once Officer Don Ellingson and Sergeant Dick Moody, the project supervisor, have made their tests and measurements, they'll release the animal. Our boats will rely on the helicopter to guide us to a sea cow, and we'll be linked by radio during the aerial survey.
Any sea cows here will stir up the bottom silt as they feed on plants. To find the animals, you look for a patch of muddy water. There's something clouding the surface ahead. Mud, kicked up by a feeding sea cow. We'll hold here over the floating mud. The animal must be in the water under it. These rising mud clouds mean the sea cow is feeding just below. even though we can't see it beneath the surface. The depth is only about 5 feet here, and there's no strong current, so the floating mud should mark the animal's location exactly. A radio call to the capture boat will bring them here quickly. They're cruising close by. My directions must be precisely given to Carl on the boat. They can't see the mud that we see so clearly from above. It's still rising. The radio directions relayed to Steve are his only clue to the sea cow's exact location. From above, we'll guide the boat's every turn.
The net's ready to go when Stan gives the cue. The net forms a wall in the shallow water, and by following the radio directions, we'll circle the sea cow even though we can't see the floating mud from this angle. That brings us back to the start of the circle. We've formed an underwater pen, and the sea cow should be inside. There he is, and he's trying to break through. We won't need the helicopter any longer. There's no doubt about the sea cow's location now. The animal keeps charging the net, trying to escape. He's tangled in the net. It's critical that he remains able to reach the surface. These are air-breathing mammals, and if the net holds him under, he might drown. We'll pull him nearer to the boat where we can keep close watch on his breathing. The animal's much too large to haul into our boat, so the plan is to tow him behind us to solid ground.
My work up here is finished, and I'll be more help down below. You have to be careful jumping into shallow water. If you dive, you'll slice through the water and hit bottom. You're better off just jumping.
Still able to breathe, but that thrashing only tangles him more. When Stan reaches the boat, we can start towing the animal.
With the sea cow trapped in the net, the idea is to drag him out of the water onto solid ground, where the Florida Marine Patrol officers can make the observations and measurements they need for their study. The animal is still able to get his nose above water to breathe.
We'll haul him onto this sandbar. The water here is too shallow for our prop, so we'll have to push the boat. The sea cow is exhausted, but breathing well. Once we have it out of the water, Dick Moody will make his measurements quickly. It's easier pushing against the solid boat than trying to tug on the sharp lines of the net. That's enough. He's aground. And now we can remove some of the netting that's covering him to check his general condition. This is a big sea cow, and he seems to be in excellent health. He's gone and swimming fast. No matter how good the capture plan, you can't catch them all. We weren't able to catch any sea cows in the murky waters off the southern coast, so we headed north to the clear waters of the Crystal and Homosassa rivers, where sea cows had been reported. We planned to dive into the river to study the sea cows right in the water. It's possible here because underwater visibility is good. Dick Moody knows this river, and Calvin Adams has cruised it many times too, looking for sea cows. The animals return here every winter, gathering in the warm springs that feed this river. The first of the springs is just upstream from us now, so we'll slow engines here and begin our underwater search. The sea cows could be anywhere near the spring, and we'll watch for them as we swim upriver with the boat following close behind. There's no sign of sea cows yet, but there are hundreds of fish. The water is shallow here, but the river bed will drop sharply when we near the spring. Dick is still right behind us. Judging from the warmth of the water, we must be getting close to the spring.
The sandy bottom's dropping away, and a large school of fish marks the deeper water of the warm spring. This water wells up from deep in the earth. It's a large spring, and a highly unusual one. For some unknown reason, saltwater fish, normally found only in the open ocean, congregate here in large numbers, even though this is fresh water. This spring seems as full of life as a tropical sea. There are all kinds of fish here. They seem to thrive in the warm water.
We're approaching a small group of sheep's head, normally a saltwater fish. It's strange to see them here, and just as surprising to see this large school of jacks, another ocean fish. No one can really explain why these fish come here, but the spring draws them like a magnet. We haven't seen any sea cows here, so we'll check the other side of this spring before moving on to the next one up the river. These mangrove snappers are schooling where there's an especially strong current of warm water. There, just the other side of the spring, sea cows. There's a big one, with 3 more behind him. Off to the right, 2 more. A total of 6 sea cows. The idea now is to see how closely we can approach them. We hope to measure the sea cows with a tape, and that means actually touching the animals. To do that, we'll have to get them to accept us without fear. The first step is simply to let the sea cows become used to our presence here. They're extremely benign and sluggish, and that should help. They don't seem especially frightened of us, but the animals are all too wary to let us stay near them for long. There are 2 more. They're usually solitary animals, but the cold weather forces them together temporarily when they return to the warmer springs, and there seem to be many here. Stan's found another one, but he isn't having too much luck getting the animal to let him approach. While we let the sea cows look us over, we can give them a careful inspection too. One of our objectives is to see how many of the sea cows show propeller marks on their backs, scars left by the slashing props of boats passing over them. Many of the animals carry these marks. On the surface above, some water hyacinths are floating. This is a plant sea cows seem to favor, and we may be able to get these animals to accept us by feeding them. If we can coax one to accept food from us, he may let us approach closely enough to make our measurements.
He's still cautious, but he's letting me come much nearer now. And he doesn't seem quite so eager to move away.
We'll keep offering the water hyacinths to the animals, and chances are, if we get one to feed from our hands, the others may follow. There isn't any question about their appetites. A large sea cow eats nearly 150 pounds of vegetation every day. You have to stay close or they won't find the food. They're quite nearsighted, and their sense of smell is poor.
It looks like we may have a taker. No good. He's still a little too suspicious of a plant that has a man attached. The animals are losing much of their initial caution. They're allowing us to stay quite close, but they're still not confident enough to let us feed them. He's letting me touch him. This is an important first step. We're making progress in getting the sea cows to lose their fear of us.
This one's been staying close by, and he's finally made up his mind. He's taking the food. Those big, flexible lips just pull the plants in like grasping fingers. The sea cow seems to have accepted us completely, and the truly gentle nature of these animals is now obvious.
He's moving right on to the second helping. It looks like we've made a friend, all right. And now maybe the other sea cows will follow this animal's lead. Once we have several of them accepting food, we'll be ready to begin the final phase of our study, here in the sea cow's winter home.
Before long, many sea cows were accepting food from us. We slowly gained their confidence, and the animals began to approach us without fear. It's amazing how docile some of the sea cows have become. They show no fear as they feed from our hands. Many of the animals we found around this warm spring will now take food whenever we offer it. This sea cow is one of the friendliest and hungriest. Our main objective now is to make accurate measurements of as many animals as we can, and that means touching them. We've been trying to get them used to these physical encounters, and our touch no longer disturbs several of the sea cows we've been working with. When they're at rest, the animals seem to breathe only once about every 5 minutes. We've been careful not to disturb their natural routines in any way, and they seem to accept us completely as just another animal sharing these warm spring waters. We want to select a sea cow that's both big and friendly to be the initial subject for the careful measurements we plan to make. Our preconditioning of the animals has made many of them easy to approach. This one's almost inviting me to scratch his back. We've been working with a sea cow much larger than this one, but he seems to have moved off somewhere. We'll keep an eye out for him. You can't rush anything with these animals. One threatening move could quickly destroy the sea cow's confidence. This fellow likes getting his back scratched so much he may start following me around. There's the big animal we're looking for at the surface, getting a breath of air. Measuring the length and girth of that huge body will tell scientists a great deal about the health of the sea cow. This animal will be the first subject for our study. If the animal's still friendly, we'll put the measuring tape on him.
The first measurement we want is from the end of his muzzle, along the curve of the back, to the tip of his tail. He isn't giving us any difficulty. We've approached this animal many times before, and he's used to us touching him. But this is the first time he's had a metal measuring tape stretched across his back. This is a big one, all right. He stretches a total of 12 feet 4 inches from one end to the other. But this measurement is most meaningful when compared to another vital statistic, the girth of the animal around its middle. The ratio of length to girth tells researchers more than just the animal's size. It lets them know how well the sea cow is feeding here and allows them to estimate the animal's weight.
The animal's cooperating beautifully. He hasn't budged at all. The sea cow's so relaxed, we can simply roll him over in the water to get the tape completely around him. He probably thinks he's going to get his belly scratched. That does it, and even 8 feet around the middle.
We've measured our first sea cow, and if all the animals are as cooperative as this one, we should have no trouble gathering more statistics. We'll continue working these waters till we've measured all the approachable animals. But this will be all for today. Our air tanks must be refilled before continuing the study. The sea cows will be waiting when we dive into these warm waters again. And next time, we'll be able to approach many animals as old friends.
It was a very successful dive. The information we gathered may become an important part of the conservation study, a study that may lead to new ways to protect the big animals and assure that there will always be the return of the sea cows. Stan and I continued to work with the Marine Patrol for several more weeks. We measured and observed many sea cows in the coastal rivers and streams. These large animals are sluggish and slow-moving as they browse on underwater plants, and that made them easy prey for poachers who hunted them almost to extinction. Today, the sea cow is fully protected by the state of Florida, and its numbers are increasing. The job of saving the sea cow and all of the world's endangered animals is urgent and concerns all of us. 40 species of mammals have already vanished in this century, and 300 more may follow. Only by supporting wildlife groups everywhere can we hope to preserve what remains of the riches that are ours in the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Like what you saw? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more exclusive content. And visit our website at wildkingdom.com.